I'm angry. I'm really angry. I'm heartbroken that they did this, and that they took my husband away.
A husband and wife thousands of miles apart. He was deported back to Guatemala after almost 20 years living as an undocumented immigrant.
And if you have questions about immigration in this country, post them now. We have an immigration lawyer live in studio to talk about the process and the legal requirements. Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. I'm Lee Goldberg.
And I'm Amanda Hill. Immigration reform, one of the most divisive topics in America. Whether you believe the process should be easier or more stringent, it seems no one is happy with the current state of the system.
A Maine couple is caught up in the middle of all of this right now, and Chris Costa spoke with both of them today. Chris, Sandra Morales, she's saying her husband is not a criminal, should not have been deported.
Yeah, Lee and Amanda, Sandra's husband Otto is now in Guatemala, his home country, after he was arrested by federal agents in April. He was then deported in May. Sandra just returned from a trip to see him and now says she'll continue to fight to bring him back. Sandra Merlim can only speak to her husband by phone.
Hey, babe.
She can only see him in pictures or feel connected by this marble, which she brought back from a recent trip to Guatemala.
I'll bring back a little piece of Guatemala until I can bring him.
She went there to see her husband, Otto. He was deported from the United States in May.
And when I just saw him, I couldn't let go of him.
2 weeks, she says, wasn't enough.
The whole time, we just had that in the back of our mind that I was going to have to come home and leave him. And it's really, really hard to realize you have to do that.
When your wife called you, it's like make 100 times better.
She remembers this past April when ICE agents arrested him on an outstanding removal order from 2010. Agents say Otto was convicted on federal charges of felony use of fraudulent documents in 2013, using a fake Social Security card he received from his employer in the U.S. so he could work.
And being far from your wife and your friends is really tough.
It's just so disheartening. It's just like the whole bottom just dropped out of my world. An engagement ring, he gave me that one too.
Reminders of her husband, his lunchbox, his boots. Wait for him to return.
I want to tell her that I love you with all my heart, and I hope that everything's gonna be okay. We're gonna continue fighting. We're not gonna stop it.
Nothing's changed between us. The only thing that has changed is the miles between us. That's all.
Okay, babe. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. I love you.
Okay. I love you too.
See you.
See you.
I can't listen to him cry. I hate it. It's really heart-wrenching for me to listen to him call me and cry and say, I just want to come home. Because I believe he belongs here, and he does belong here. And his tether to this country is me. I am his legal wife, and I am not going to stop fighting until I get him home.
Otto is still waiting for the Guatemalan government to approve his ID card there so he can apply for jobs. Sandra has filled out a number of waivers, including one to obtain legal resident status in the U.S. for a non-citizen spouse, one that says she faces hardship because she relies on his income, and another to waive the 10-year ban on deportees. Part of this ongoing process includes numerous legal fees. Sandra has also set up a GoFundMe page and is asking for donations.
Meanwhile, Sandra has actually been trying to help her husband become a legal citizen for 11 years. In 2006, she says her husband applied for asylum, but after many trips to a Boston courthouse, they were told no because he hadn't applied within his first year here. Then he applied for withholding from removal and the torture convention. Both were denied. Meanwhile, through appeals, Morales says they faced a number of different lawyers, some who didn't communicate with them, others who didn't communicate with the courts.
In 2013, Sandra says ICE agents came for her husband, but made a deal that he would be given a legitimate Social Security number if he helped them find the man who initially gave him the false one and plead guilty to falsifying work documents, a promise she says was not kept. Which leads us to questions about who is targeted by ICE agents and why. So we took them to Sean Newdower, who works in public affairs for the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office. He tells us that ICE officers are looking for specific people and often encounter others during their search. But what about the rumor that these agents are only concerned about those with a criminal history? The catch is, if you're in this country without the proper paperwork, you are technically breaking the law and therefore a person of interest to ICE agents. Newdower says in part, quote, while our officers do make criminal aliens a priority, they will not ignore other immigration violators, particularly those who have signed deportation orders from an immigration court, end quote. Amanda?
Okay, so knowing all of this, we still have questions. So we brought in an immigration expert. Sue Roche is the executive director of the Immigrant Legal Advocacy Project. So starting with this, if you do not apply for asylum in that first year, how much does that complicate this whole process?
It complicates it quite a bit. Unfortunately, for the asylum process, it is a really complicated process. It takes our attorneys over 100 hours to prepare those cases, and there is a one-year filing deadline requirement that many people don't know when they're new to the country and starting to apply. If you miss that one-year deadline and you can't meet some sort of extraordinary hardship or extraordinary circumstance exception, then you do have to meet that higher standard of withholding of removal that's not a path to permanent legal status.
So withholding of removal, something that Sandra mentioned they had applied for. What's sort of the process of even going through that?
Sure. Well, there's so many different processes of obtaining legal status. Asylum and withholding of removal have different standards. They're both for people who have a fear of persecution by their government. For withholding of removal, there's a higher level that you have to meet. But it basically is saying that you have a removal order, but we're going to withhold that removal order. You just have a higher standard that you need to meet, whereas asylum eventually can lead to permanent residency and citizenship.
It sounds like she has been trying for 11 years to get legal citizenship. Is that something that you've seen? Does it take a long time?
It does, and there are many different, a lot of times people think there's just one or two simple processes for gaining legal status. It's actually quite complex. There are different types of status. Many have many years wait. Sometimes it can get complicated. People apply on their own without an attorney, and they can make a mistake that can delay their cases many years. There are incredible backlogs right now. For example, someone applying for asylum has a 3 to 4 year wait for an interview with the Boston Asylum Office that has jurisdiction over cases in Maine. If they're in immigration court, they may be getting scheduled for a hearing in 2020 or 2021.
Now, if somebody's in waiting in that process, could they still be deported within that waiting period?
If somebody is in the process and they have a pending application, or if they are in immigration court, they can't get deported until they finish their process. For example, in asylum, we actually have signed a treaty that says that we won't deport somebody who has a well-founded fear of persecution until they have the opportunity to present their case to immigration authorities.
The situation here, he falsified a Social Security number. Is that something you see a lot of? I mean, obviously someone is new to the country, they aren't completely aware of what to do around here. What do you normally see?
Yeah, I mean, if you think of somebody who gets here who may be arriving from a really dangerous situation, they need to survive. So they're going to need to work. And if they don't have an immediate path to legal status, or they're not aware of that, in immigration, you don't get a court-appointed attorney, so somebody may not have an attorney they can afford to navigate their path through the complicated processes. So sometimes people do use documents that others have given them. Sometimes they don't even realize that they're not valid, and sometimes they work without documents. But it's certainly something that people sometimes do in order to survive and support themselves and their families.
All right, Sue Roche, thanks for coming in and answering some questions.
Sure, you're welcome.
Lee?
All right, Amanda, thank you very much. In other news, officials say they caught a Maine woman in a nationwide healthcare fraud takedown. The acting United States Attorney in Maine says they arrested Carrie Caparino of Scarborough on Tuesday for embezzling from a healthcare benefit program. She's charged with stealing $250,000 from a Falmouth doctor's office where she worked. If convicted, she could face up to 10 years in jail. Hundreds of people are charged in this nationwide effort. The U.S. Attorney General says it's the largest healthcare fraud takedown in American history. As Jay Gray shows us, many of the alleged criminals on the list were also involved in trafficking or stealing opioids.
In a national dragnet, federal agents arrested more than 400, including 56 doctors accused of healthcare fraud. The Justice Department calls it the largest operation of its kind in U.S. history, involving more than 1,000 law enforcement officers across the country, targeting medical professionals in more than 200 clinics or hospitals now in the process of being suspended or shut down.
These defendants have defrauded taxpayers of approximately $1.3 billion.
Many of the alleged schemes centered around the growing opioid epidemic.
120 have been charged with opioid-related crimes, making this also the largest opioid-related fraud takedown in American history.
Drug overdoses are now the leading cause of death for Americans under 50. In 2015, the latest data available, more than 50,000 died of an overdose. 33,000 of those involved opioids, more than half from prescriptions.
Just one doctor allegedly gave out 12,000 opioid prescriptions for over 2 million illegal painkiller doses.
Officials say the roundup announced today is part of an ongoing effort as they try to get a handle on a problem that many agree is out of control right now. Jay Gray, NBC News.
All right, there's more than a year before Maine chooses a new governor, but already another prominent politician may be getting ready to announce his campaign. Details later on Now.
And do you know what today is? Well, it's the best day of the year for French fry lovers, but do you know that you can celebrate and not have to add all those calories? Yum. All right, it might be Thursday, but it's also Fry Day. National French Fry Day has Katie Crinklecut Ortiz all hopped up on her favorite food. But to mix things up, she had a registered dietitian show her how to make healthier French fries that taste really, really good, just like the greasy stuff.
Happy National French Fry Day, everybody. It's my favorite day of the year, as you may know. I love French fries. However, a recent study shows that French fries may be linked to a higher risk of death. However, it was an observational study and not a scientific study, so I'm not totally convinced. But we're here now with Amy Bouchard. She's a program coordinator for Let's Go. So the traditional French fry, of course, fried.
Right, so it's higher in saturated fats and trans fats, a lot of times very high in sodium, which can clog your arteries and raise your cholesterol, not the things we want to have happen.
So I'm not going to lie, on average, I'll probably have fries maybe from 2 to 3 times a week. It's really bad. How can I stay healthy, and how can my fellow French fry lovers stay healthy while maintaining our obnoxious French fry lifestyle?
Yes, absolutely. You should still be able to enjoy your French fries. So what we did today is we just made a healthier version of your French fry. Okay. So instead of frying it, we baked it. And all we did is we took our potato, we cut them up into French fry style slices. We mixed them with just a little bit of olive oil and some salt and pepper and baked them. And it's that easy.
But I just really like unhealthy things. So when I think of a healthier version, I'm like, no, it's not going to be the same.
And I think a lot of times when people are trying to make healthier choices, they want a choice that's going to be as close to the original product as possible. So that's why we decided to make you as much of a traditional French fry today as we could.
Well, I sure appreciate it, and I'm sure my health will appreciate it down the road as well.
Yes, it will. It will.
Amy, as I mentioned, is with Let's Go, which is a program that incorporates healthy food and exercise into everyday life. So hit up our app or website for the recipe. They really do taste like this, the real greasy thing, the unhealthy fries. So
the very unhealthy ones.
Just gonna hold those for
covered
you.
in bacon dust.
I'm just trying to help. They looked heavy, so I'm here to help.
Yeah.
All right.
Watch how much you eat, though.
You're supposed to read now. Good luck with that.
Still to come on Now.
As soon as they're interested, I think it's good that they're starting to come out now and talk about it.
Are you paying attention to politics? Maine's gubernatorial field is already filling up.
And is the rain almost done for the day? KC will give us the details coming up.
In the race for the governor's seat, another candidate is expected to throw his hat into the ring tonight. Former Speaker of the House Mark Eves says he has a big announcement to make regarding the 2018 gubernatorial campaign, and he's decided to make that announcement on Facebook Live tonight. Now, I know the election is still a few months off, but I hit the streets to talk to Mainers to see if they're thinking about the election yet and to see if making that big announcement on social media matters to them. 15 months to go until a new governor is picked by the people to enter the Blaine House. Are you thinking at all about the 2018 governor's race
Oh,
yet?
yes. It's going to be very important.
Mainers say they are paying attention to the candidates, but does the way they announce their candidacy matter to voters? Mary Mayhew broke the news on morning radio. Janet Mills sent out a press release. Now, Mark Eves is expected to use Facebook Live to formally throw his hat in the ring, something that Max from Portland thinks is a smart move.
It gives people the ability to comment and be a part of it, like especially with Facebook Live, it allows people to ask questions and interact, and other people can interact in real time.
For others, it's more about the candidate than the announcement.
Well, things have changed a lot of different ways of doing it, and I think whatever way gets the message out, it's fine with me.
Political science professor Ronald Schmidt says the use of social media is a cost-effective way to get that message out in a rural state like Maine.
Primarily, we think of social media as basically a young person's game. It's more and more being used by citizens of all ages.
He says no matter how you announce your candidacy, at this early stage in the race, gaining support from donors is more important than reaching voters.
The majority of voters aren't going to remember this week or this month when it comes time to vote in the primaries. But if Eves and Mayhew and Mills can, at this early stage, convince people to donate money to them, to hire on with their campaigns, to help their message, then when that time comes, they're going to have the infrastructure in place to really reach those voters.
Professor Schmidt also said that campaign announcements are usually tailored to the audience you're trying to reach. For example, he said Mary Mayhew probably initially spoke about her campaign on a radio station because Governor LePage often makes announcements on radio stations and he has a big following there. Professor Schmidt said he thinks Mark Eves is using social media not only to reach Maine Democrats, but maybe national Democrats who might be able to help him. Leah and Amanda?
More importantly, does Mark Eves have as many followers as Keith Carson?
Nobody has as many followers.
Oh, they do.
Keith Carson.
Is it weird they're not in the shot yet?
It's weird.
I think you're right.
It's okay.
Oh,
Come on in.
Hey.
Come on in.
Hey guys.
Okay, so I mentioned this earlier. I don't mind that today was folly. I didn't mind it.
No, I could see
For
that.
one day, I'm
I could see
okay
that.
with it. A day
I
and
saw a
a
lot of
half
open windows. My place has I call them the Irish windows because if you've been to Ireland, you see this. They crank out this way, so if it rains, you can let air in, but it doesn't get in the sill. And that's really nice on a day like today because it's raining, but it's not like raining, you know? It's purple, not a purple.
Raining, not raining.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying.
This is why he went to school.
It's not downpoury. By the way, Aroostook County, the winter today, remember we went through that streak of a couple of months where they saw the nicest weather, then it kind of flipped for a while. Back to nice weather today while the rest of us stayed in the 60s for highs. That's a pretty big anomaly for this time of the year. Showers have dwindled, although I will say some of this is not being picked up on radar. We have some low-level drizzle out there that's too low for the radar beam to detect. So it's still a little bit moist out there for sure. Look at all these severe storms down along the warm front. The warm front's right about here, and you can see it reflected in today's high temperatures. New York City was 90, Philadelphia 94, got to 90 all the way into Connecticut, and then that's where the fun stopped. 70 in Boston, 67 officially in Portland. We stay on the wrong side, if you will, of the front tomorrow as well, but it's a drier day in general. There'll be some sunshine, particularly across northern Maine, but it's still cool. Temperatures only in the 70s, mid-70s across northern Maine with the most amount of sun. The front kind of washes itself out and pushes towards us on Saturday. We get into the mid-70s there with scattered showers and storms, and then we continue our pattern that we've been in for a while, which is a nice Sunday with a dry northwest flow, a lot of sunshine, and mild temperatures. Here's your hour-by-hour forecast showing you some low-level clouds sticking around through tonight and through tomorrow. Tomorrow's a split state forecast in that the southern third of the state is cloudy and the rest of the state is mostly sunny. There's an isolated chance for a shower, particularly in the afternoon, but the vast majority of us stay dry. This is how it breaks down for Friday. Shower chances, 20%, including Portland, 30% into the mountains, and then a 40% bullseye back across parts of New Hampshire. So if you like this little cool down, you got one more day, and if you didn't like it, summer comes roaring back next week. Early indications are that next week would be a good week to take off. You know, a lot of people do the staycation in Maine because it's such a pretty place to be this time of the year. And so these are popular vacation weeks. I think next week, even if the wheels fall off the wagon on Thursday night, you know, you got Sunday through midday Thursday, regardless. So.
Okay, so Lee, good luck next week.
Are you off next week?
I'm not, but apparently Amanda wants me to be.
No,
So-
I was saying I'm leaving.
Oh, you're leaving?
Oh,
I thought you
have 9 weeks of vacation, don't you? You should be able to use that at this point.
You should.
31 weeks of vacation, yeah. One for every year
Thanks for
that
showing
I've
up.
been here. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, sir, thank you very much. Yesterday, we told you how Maine came in 46th place on the annual Best States for Business study by CNBC. That report found that Mainers had a great quality of life, but we're really struggling to hold on to trained, skilled workers. Now that, combined with old infrastructure, high taxes, Maine certainly wasn't able to compete with high-tech and green energy states like the state of Washington.
And most of you were not surprised to hear this. So we asked you what Maine could do differently to promote both small and big business. And John says NAFTA needs to be renegotiated to bring real jobs back. Christine says taxes and workers' comp insurance rates are killing new businesses. And Sean suggested boosting rural economies in Maine by allowing Sunday hunting.
Some entrepreneurs say that Maine's business community just isn't very friendly. Now, these are just a few of the suggestions, and the Ask Now team will be looking into some of these theories to see if they really could make Maine more business friendly.
Yeah.
So we will have to find out if that's a thing that could actually, I would clearly everybody wants that.
Right.
So.
This is just the beginning of this conversation. I think there are a lot of topics we can pick out of this and get a little deeper into.
All right, before we move forward, we have to go backward just for a second, because ever since we did the French fry segment with Katie, everybody is talking about food. Food on Facebook, and right now
food in general.
Deborah is having French fries, but she's having it with barbecue pulled pork. It's 5:25. I'm hungry. Come on.
That does kind of make
Deborah,
me
you can't
hungry.
do that. All right.
Let's take a break and go get some more French fries.
Yeah, all right. Brain Drops is next.
Today's Brain Drops is simply an image, but it's an awesome image. Now, unfortunately, there's a huge copyright on there. At the same time, I get it because of the social media aspect. This is in Austria, taken 2 days ago. It's a thunder, obviously a lightning bolt, but look at these right here. That's what makes this whole picture. See those things coming up? Those are actually the leaders coming out of the ground. Remember we talked a couple of months ago about how lightning does not come down from the ground. It actually meets somewhere, not always the middle, but it meets in the air between these leaders being sent up from different objects and actually connecting with that positive charge from the cloud. So what you're actually seeing, and there's only a couple of pictures of this that have ever been captured, is those leaders kind of reaching up, trying to get to the cloud and the lightning bolt. So where it connected is where the lightning has occurred.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, because it almost looks like it's roots or something coming out of the ground of like a tree or whatever.
Right, and so the other famous picture of this is a tree, and there's one coming off the tree, and the lightning ended up striking next to it. But it shows all the energy being, a human would have one of these in certain scenarios as well. You don't want to be in that scenario.
No, you don't want to be the conductor of that. All right.
News Center at 5:30 starts right now.